All right, I'm sorry. There was some sort of a technical problem. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, it just went off. Let's just continue where we are. We're going. We're talking about Maimonides. And Maimonides, he passed away on the 20th day of Teves, which by us is going to be next week on Monday, Sunday night. And Maimonides, he did exactly what we're reading about in this Torah portion. Therefore, his day is the day that he passed away always falls in or next to this Torah portion. What's this Torah portion? It's Shemot, Exodus, Shemot. It talks about the Jewish people going into Egypt, and they're going into Egypt in order to elevate Egypt. And that's what Maimonides did. A big portion of his life was in Egypt, and that's where he wrote his amazing book, which is called the Yad HaChazaka, the 14-volume book of all the laws of the Torah, including the laws of the Moshiach. Okay. It says that's why he passed away when he was 70 years old, because 70 years old, the number 70, so that's the number of Jews that went into Egypt was 70. And we said that that was the age of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that we talked about last week, that he talked about, said that we should say going out of Egypt all the days of our life. And that the Jewish people, right, and it says that the life of a man is, in Psalms, it says is 70 years that you can accomplish completion. And that's what seems that he did. He accomplished as much as a human being could possibly accomplish, the Maimonides did, and especially being all the laws of the Torah, which that's what Mashiach is going to do. And he is clearly explaining what Mashiach is. Okay, Yud base. According to this, now it's possible to understand the connection between this week's Torah portion, Shemot, and the 20th day of Tevet, the day of the passing away of the Rambam, Maimonides, that it always comes right next to this, especially according to what's known. We did this. This is what we just finished doing. I'm sorry. I thought we were on 11. Okay, 70 years. That's where we were. Yes. Okay. Okay, so according to this, now it's understood what we're supposed to do, in order to actually bring the future redemption, redemption that the Maimonides was talking about, and that he prepared the 70 years of his life. It comes out that everything is revealed. Paul Yeshua Bekerav Orts on the 20th day of Tevet, and that's when a lot of Chabad people, they went to the grave of the Rambam of Maimonides this Shabbat. So it's understood that this Shabbat, we have to bring about what the Rambam was also driving at, what he was trying to bring, the Gul of Israel, the redemption of the Jewish people in a state of going into Egypt, even in exile, that we can bring to it and talk about it and bring to a certain degree of redemption, even in Israel, even in the nighttime, it says. What can we learn from this simply in our generation, in our time? Kavar Dubar, it was already spoken many times. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, who he's the leader of our generation, the Rebbe said many times that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he's the Moshiach of our generation. And in addition to the fact, as the Talmud says, kolo kitzim, that Mashiach was supposed to have come long ago. Kavar Asu b'nei Israel, the Jewish people have already done tshuva, and they finished everything, including also to shine up the buttons for the parade to accept Mashiach. All we have to do, now God, he's got to open up everybody's eyes, and everyone should see Yiru, that the redemption, the true redemption, it's already here, said the Rebbe. Now, the Rebbe said this 30 years ago. We have to open up our eyes and see it. We're already sitting in the table for the meal. It says the Mashiach is going to come. There's going to be the meal, a spiritual, also a physical meal. It says it's going to be of Leviathan, this huge fish, and Shura Bor, which is this huge ox. There's going to be enough for everybody, and there's going to be special wine that was there from the beginning of the creation. So the Rebbe said, open your eyes and you'll see that it's already here. From this is understood that im kavar biyurida lemitzrayim, if when we went down to Egypt 3,000 years ago, we went down into Egypt, and it says that the names of the Jews that went into Egypt, the Boy Mitzrayim, that this was really the beginning of the redemption of the Jewish people, because we had to go into this lowest place in order to elevate it. And if, in all the time, the service of the Jewish people was to draw and bring the redemption actually into the exile, in other words, everything that's in the world should reveal its true purpose, how much more so after Kavar Yeshno, if that was true back then, that we already began the redemption, how much more so now, after 3,000 years of Jewish suffering, etc., and especially including what Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah in our days, who is that? Our days, and also the Rambam in his time. I'm sorry, Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah in his days, he was already talking about going out of the Moshiach. That was like 1,800 years ago. And Maimonides in our time now, our time, which was what, 800, 900 years ago. And every tzaddik, all the tzaddikim, all the tzaddikim of the Jews from all of the generations, the service of all of are the leaders of Chabad, and which all of them have a direct genealogy to King David, Mishevet Yehuda from Yehuda, including also the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the 70 years that he was also in this world. So if so, how much more so if Moshiach had already begun back then when the Jews went into Egypt, which was 3,300 and what it is, 29 years ago? No, what I was talking about? No, 3,000, I'm sorry, 3,500 and what it is in 50, something like that years ago, Jews went into Egypt. If back then the redemption was already beginning, and since then there's been so much work done to bring the redemption, how much more so in our generation, after we've finished all of our work, we have a promise, a certainty of the Torah, without any doubt, that Kol Yomei Chayecha, that all of the days of our life and the lives of all of the great holy Jews in all the generations, all the suffering and all the expulsions, etc., will certainly bring to the days of the Mashiach. Simply meaning, what's the simple meaning? Shaloz Gukim Lehefsek Chas V'Shalom Ben Kol Yomei Chayecha and Yemos Mashiach. We don't have to have any separation between our lives now and the days of the Mashiach. It can just slide in like it was by the Jewish people and all the generations before that. We see that the generations of Elazar ben Azariah and the Rambam, that they wanted so desperately Mashiach should come immediately, and it was supposed to come back then, but nevertheless we see that they had to wait 1,000 years, whatever, 900 years. But by us, it's not going to be that way. By us, it's going to be that all of the days of their life, of every single Jew, physical life with souls and bodies, including the days that will in the Mashiach, without any stopping, without separation, since the redemption will come immediately in this moment. The problem, according to what the Rebbe is saying, is that it's us. We're not we're not opening up our eyes. I mean, and I don't know. So the problem is so much us. I mean, the Rebbe can say us because the Rebbe represents all Jewish people, but I can say me. I mean, the problem is that I'm not opening up my eyes. So everybody, I guess, has to say it to themselves. We can talk a little bit about what this seems to mean. Well, even if this is in a situation in the nighttime, even in the when we're in the exile, and everything is confused. Nevertheless, in one instant of the exile, and the Kuda Acharon, the last moment, it can become transformed immediately into the first moment of redemption. From the days of our life and nowadays in this place, without any separation whatsoever, even if it's a person is already 70 years old, like it says, over Kol Echad, each and every Jew can immediately transform, can, how do you say, not enter his whole life into, like it says, Reuven and Shimon went down into Egypt. The same Reuven and Shimon came out of Egypt. All the days of your life, the days of the Mashiach, which will be eternal life in this world. Okay, what's the point? What should we actually do? Oh, here we go. The service of the Jewish people now has to be every moment of your life to think about how can I bring to Mashiach, to reveal already, immediately, actually, how that the situation of going into Egypt, that we're in Egypt, is really a situation of going out of Egypt. By means of this, that we can prepare ourselves and bringing to the days of the Mashiach. Okay, I think this idea just came into my mind, and I think that this is really true. One, I think, what's the Rebbe saying? We're already in the days of the Mashiach. We have to open up our eyes. So we see in the world, though, that there's really terrible things going on, awful, terrible things going on. And there's people that are not nice people and destructive people, and they come into our lives and they affect us. And we have to force us to react to them. We have no choice. So we have these fires now in Florida and in California. We have this terrible war going on over here in Israel, and we have, Trump is trying to force this insane, capitulation of the Jewish people, and our leader is just spineless. He just can't. Well, I mean, how are we supposed to ignore? How are we supposed to say that this is the time of redemption? What type of redemption? What are you talking about? Boys are getting killed over here. It says that there's, what is it? It's something like 800 something that have been killed, Israeli soldiers, but there's 10 times as many that have lost limbs and they've lost eyes, and that's not counting the number that have post-traumatic syndrome, that they're affected deeply by the war. How can we say? It seems to me that the thing is that the point is to not be affected negatively by anything. Not be affected negatively by anything. To see that somehow or other through this whole entire business, and I don't know how exactly, but if we treat everything in the proper way, then we'll realize that it's really not bad. It's really somehow or other part of the going out of Egypt, or going out of Egypt itself. I don't know. I don't really believe what I'm saying, to tell you the truth, but because I've been to a lot of these houses of people that they lost their children just last week. This week it was. This Monday. So they put out a message that there's a family that their son fell last Shabbat. Their son fell in battle, died in battle, and that no one has come to comfort the people. Didn't know about it. People they didn't know who. I guess it was a family that was sort of, not socializing with other people. In any case, very few people came to comfort the mourners. So I heard this was on. So I heard about it, and I figured, well, I'll go. I'll go. So I went on Monday night. I went there on Monday night. By the time I got there, so many people had come from Israel. They built a huge tent for these people. Strangers, people didn't know who they brought food. The place was packed. They brought food, and they were sitting. They brought what is it? A speaker around. There was rabbis there, and they were speaking, and they were eating. People were comforting the mourners. They were comforting the mourners. I mean, when I was there must have been 100 people. But most of these people were people that didn't know. Didn't know. Anyway, I went and I said, "Well, where are the parents of these people? Where are the parents?" And I went over them to comfort them, to tell them. I looked in the father's eyes, and I don't know. I just saw the endless mourning, endless sadness. It's like not only just sadness. It was like, how did this happen to me? What am I doing here? What is going on? I saw in his father just like, how do you say, endless emptiness. It's like somebody took away everything inside of his body. I can't explain it. I looked at it 1 second, and I was just I said, God should comfort you. And he said, yes, yes, it is. And he shook my hand. I went over, I had to go over the side, just stand there for, about 5 minutes just to sort of come to myself. It's hard to say, it's a part of the redemption, just part of the redemption, just par for the course, I don't get it, to tell you the truth. I just truly don't. I truly don't get it. That the suffering is just incomprehensible. I just don't get it. I don't get it. What can I tell you? Okay. Okay, so the Rebbe says, nevertheless, listen, we're promised by the Torah it's going to happen, and for sure it's going to happen. And what's happening now has been happening to the Jews at least for the last, since Abraham. What can I say? What can I say? The Rebbe said that before he was 3 years old, he already had it figured out in his mind. He had a picture in his mind how Moshiach is going to come and explain the suffering of the Jewish people. So we see that the Rebbe was very pained by the suffering of the Jewish people, much more pained than I'm pained. And the Mashiach somehow or other is going to alleviate this. How he's going to do that, I have absolutely no comprehension whatsoever. But if he does, it'll be a really good thing. That'll be okay. So we have to prepare for the redemption of the Jewish people. What? You have to prepare yourself and others. Any second Mashiach is going to come and everything will be understandable. And of course, there will be the raising of the dead. There's going to be such a thing, raising of the dead. Huh? Including also the Maimonides will also be stand up from the dead. How? By means of what? By means of our strengthening the learning his book of the Rambam, including also by means of learning the Rambam, each and every one of the Jewish people, 3 chapters a day, or 1 chapter a day, or the book of the mitzvahs. He's got a book of mitzvahs, especially the book of the Rambam itself. The laws of, especially in the Rambam itself, the last chapters, the laws of the coming of the Mashiach in the Rambam. In the last 2 chapters of the Maimonides, there's a lot of times when I'm on internet, so some people, they always write to me, you have to believe the Messiah has already come, and he has come, and our Savior is here, and he suffered because of you, and you don't believe in it, and because of this, and he's going to save you, and he's going to save you and save you. So I just send them the last chapter of the Rambam, and I just write to them, here's the criteria of the Mashiach, and that your fellow doesn't have any of them. And especially in the book of the Rambam itself, the laws of the Melech HaMashiach in the last 2 chapters, you should learn that. In addition to learning in this, you should also take pains to have an effect on other Jews that are around him, men, women, children, in a way that you should make a lot of pupils. Hamidu Talmidim Harbe. It's the beginning of, it's right in the first chapter of, right in the beginning of Pirkei Avot, the chapter of the fathers. May it be God's will that by means of our decisions, we should immediately receive the reward, and should be actually fulfilled, really, the words of the Maimonides in the end of his book, that after there is already the Melech Mashiach, Beis David, and he works the Torah, and he does the commandments like David did, and he will force all the Jewish people, convince all the Jewish people to do the Torah and to strengthen in the Torah and the commandments, and he will strengthen Judaism in general, and he'll fight against any forces which weaken Judaism. A person that does that, you can suppose, b'chazakah, you can suppose he's the Mashiach. And then this will immediately bring to the goal of the Mashiach Vadai, that he'll succeed in everything that he does. He'll build the temple. He'll defeat all the enemies of Judaism. He'll build the temple in its place. He'll gather, and then consequently, the temple will draw all the Jewish people, all the Jews from all over the world, and the whole world will be interested only in serving God together until the end of the Rambam. Maimonides says the last words, the world will be filled with the awareness of God like water fills the ocean. That's the goal. Okay, so what have we learned? We've learned that the going into the exile somehow or other is a good thing because it's going to elevate and transform the whole world somehow. And it'll transform, not just give us a consolation prize. It will say it's all worth it. We'll realize that the bad things somehow or other were really good. That the terrible things that happened, the Holocaust and this, and somehow or other, this was really a very good thing. How that's going to be, I have absolutely no idea. Moshiach is going to do it, just like the Jews that were in Egypt had absolutely no idea how you could ever leave Egypt. How you could ever leave Egypt, how we can go on when we receive the Torah from God. We're going to be God's chosen people. They had no idea what was going on. Exactly the opposite. In Egypt, they suffered because they were God's chosen people, because they were the Jews, and they were separate from everybody else. So that's why they suffered. Being a Jew is terrible. Now, all of a sudden, they got out of Egypt. Being a Jew is the best thing in the world. Right? It was incomprehensible for them when they were in Egypt. What the change that Moses was going to bring about? But it was inevitable. It was written in the Torah. And coming to the Moshiach now is also inevitable. It's written in the Torah. It's written in the Rambam. Maimonides. So it's going to happen. For sure it's going to happen. If it happens right now, it's already thousands of years too late. And Moshiach will explain why he took so long also. But the main thing is that we need Moshiach now. Now let's do the Yom Yom.